Hi, Jen here from Jen Michelle Coaching, and today I want to talk about how I healed my anxious attachment in hopes that this will educate and support you if you are feeling a little bit locked into patterns that don't serve you or dynamics that you know are possible to break out of but are struggling with right now. For those of you new to my channel, I would love to invite you to subscribe. I release a video weekly. So the anxious attachment is when we look to others for a sense of safety or well-being. If our partner isn't showing up, that abandonment wound gets triggered where we have a more visceral experience of not feeling safe. Our nervous system becomes incredibly dysregulated, and we will do anything to avoid having to feel that way. So we seek that safety outside of ourselves, and at varying levels create a lot of collateral damage because, of course, ultimately, we are the only ones that can feel safe within. No one can give us that permission except ourselves. And yes, can our partner do things to support or to not support that? Absolutely. But moving from an anxious to a secure attachment really is about the inner work that you are embracing and practicing and really regulating within. So let's dive into this. Number one, deep intention and awareness. So this means that you begin to take note of when you are seeking outside of yourself. Notice that maybe you feel okay when everything just seems to be routine or they're in a good mood, but the minute they're in a bad mood or pull away or have a challenge, suddenly you're dysregulated and taking that on. This is a clue to go back inside of yourself, right? This is where you begin to scan on the outside to seek safety on the inside. And to break this pattern, it means that you're allowing the person to really just have their experience, right? Like maybe they had a bad day at work, maybe they are upset with you, who knows? But you're allowing yourself to give them that space to move through it without intervening. You're allowing that to just exist as it is and choosing to take care of yourself, right? And so maybe that means instead of like monitoring on the outside, you need to go remove yourself from the environment. Maybe you need to get out in nature, take a walk, call a friend, read something that soothes you, but you're kind of making that commitment as you gain awareness around what you want to do, and then you begin to filter this and decide, is that action going to serve you, or is it rooted in something that you're really being asked to heal on a deeper level? And you begin to build this new neural pathway. You begin to form a new way, and you begin to create safety within and stop looking for it outside. This is a life practice at varying levels. It does get easier. So for those of you that are in the thick of this right now, be super gentle with yourselves and give yourselves a lot of grace. But this is possible, and it just requires your conscious attention. So you're making good decisions and filtering before moving forward. Number two, I also had to call myself out on my own controlling ways, right? Because sometimes when we have anxious tendencies, really, we're kind of trying to control because fear invites in controlling tendencies where we are only going to be okay if this, and this is done, or if you say this, or if you do this, then I'll be okay. But it's like really releasing that and recognizing all of the controlling ways in which you're asking for something outside of yourself to be different. Control is one of those things where it's kind of been normalized in society, right? Where we try to control another. And I'll catch that to this day within myself on smaller levels. And I'll recognize with a lot of intention that I actually don't really have the right to intervene in another person's process, that they have to come to their own conclusions and form their own perception and make decisions for themselves because their path is different than mine. So even in my marriage, maybe my husband will have a whole different process than me or a whole different way of looking at things. And I have to be okay with that without stepping in to intervene. I have to let him reach his conclusions in his form and in his way without stepping in to tell him how he should do it or to give suggestions around how he could go about it differently when he's not asking for that, right? And so this really is a call to recognize all the little ways you may be stepping in to try to make yourself more comfortable without realizing it, because it's been normalized and because it's become so sort of accepted within our societal framework. So I invite you to kind of peel this back and call yourself out on any control mechanisms that are at play that really end up leaving you feeling more constricted and more heavy and less open and expansive as a result. Number 3, tuning in and really seeing what it is that I need in a given moment that I'm asking for from him. Am I asking for love? Am I asking for reassurance? Am I asking to feel safe? How do I give those things to myself? How do I show up in that moment? Maybe it's something just really small that points the compass in a new direction. It can be little simple practices and exercises and self-care that allow us to start to regulate differently. And it may feel really challenging. And for those of you that are in the thick of this, it may trigger your ego into saying, that's it, like have a cup of tea or take a bubble bath or take a walk. That's not enough. Just kind of observe that, right? Because the ego is the part of us that's critical and judgmental of our practices and meeting ourselves where we are. And instead, we just say, yeah, we're trying a new way. We're going to go this new direction. We're going to build more safety within ourselves instead of trying to ask others to give us all the things that we're actually, at the end of the day, not even willing to do for ourselves. And so if we're not willing to show up for ourselves, we must trust that another is going to be limited in their capacity to show up for us too. We kind of set the bar. And as we hold that gentle, loving space and move through difficult emotions without feeding a dynamic in any stage of love that doesn't serve us, trust that another person will feel this, that this will create the best opportunity in inspiring him to look within and do his healing work, right? This is really what happened within the relationship with my husband. I got very conscious of this, which then triggered him to get conscious and notice all the ways in which his childhood stuff was playing out. And it created a really beautiful willingness between the two of us where I took self-responsibility and he took self-responsibility, and we met each other in the middle. And so for those of you that just feel hopeless or feel challenged around the possibility of this dynamic ever changing or continuing to seek out relationships where this comes into play, I really am confident that if you do these 3 things, this will really support you in up-leveling and moving your relationship from a love bond versus something rooted in old trauma or scarcity. If you'd like to learn more about me and my offerings, please visit jenmichellecoaching.com. I am going to be running my group in February. Please sign up for my wait list. And if this video comes out and the sign up page is live, please check out the sales page there where I go through all the modules, all the different offerings. And I would love for you to join us in February if this speaks to you. Much love, and I'll see you all next week.